Hey everyone, Matt Thomas here. Thanks for watching. Let me jump right into it so we can keep this video short. Learning styles don't exist. Surprise! Now, for those of you that are like, no, Matt, I know they exist. I learned about them in my credential program, and I've been to many workshops on how to teach visual learners and how to teach kinesthetic and auditory learners. No, they don't. That's not a thing, at least according to neuroscientists, and it's been around for a long time. Neuroscientists have known this. People forgot to tell us educators, right? So it's an example of a neuromyth, which essentially is Dr. Heather Berlin says, like, this is a myth that's been perpetuated for many years, and it's very hard to break. If you want research, if you want quotes, if you want articles, there's the link to all of them. I won't go over the stuff individually just to keep this video short. So what's the problem? Like if you're like, great, Matt, okay, so technically learning styles don't exist. Wonderful. What's the problem? What's the issue with us like saying they do? The issue is when a student feels that he or she can only learn through that specific learning style. So if someone says, hey, I'm a visual learner. If I don't see it visually, I can't learn it. And that's not the case. But if they believe that, right, they'll like, oh, wait, I'm hearing something? No, I'm going to tune it out because I'm a visual learner. It's that they're not accepting that they can learn through all the different learning modalities. So learning styles is different than learning modalities or learning intelligences. Those two, modalities and intelligences, are a real thing, right? Some people just have stronger music intelligence, or some people are stronger kinesthetically. That's a real thing. Modalities or methods is a real thing, right? You use a lot of visuals. You're teaching, the visual modality with the visual modality. It's the thought of, I am a visual learner. 80% of all people are visual learners. Not according to people that know how the brain works. Now, there are different types. There are two different types of students in the sense that some students work better independently, while others need more structure and scaffolding. Science does support that. Some of our students that go, I just work better alone, they actually probably do. Or some need more structure and scaffolding. Yes, they absolutely do. So what's going on here? Like. Why then do some of us go, no, I thought I was a visual learner because I need to see things to understand it? Here's really what's going on. Certain things are taught better in certain ways. Let me explain. So if you're teaching a graph is intended to be a visual representation of something. So if I were to explain a graph to you, but I don't show you the graph, that's not a good way of teaching. People need to see the graph, because a graph is a visual representation of something. If I'm trying to explain a graph and someone goes, nope, I'm a visual learner, I need to see it. No, you're not a visual learner. It's just important to see what the graph looks like for all learners, right? Teaching a play, if someone tried to teach Romeo and Juliet just by reading the play, that would be very challenging, right? Romeo and Juliet is challenging enough. It's a play. It needs to be watched. So watching the play will make it much easier. No, a person's not a visual learner specifically. It's just a play's meant to be watched. And then while you're teaching things, reinforce them with other modalities, right? Stick a visual on the overhead while you're speaking about what you're showing. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to give you a really quick example. I promise that there's a purpose for this. So let me just give you an example of how you don't need like people just aren't visual learners. Let's say this. So I'm going to tell you a story about the time that I got attacked. I got jumped when I was in high school outside of Carl's Jr. So I was working in Carl's Jr. and long story short, there was a guy that wanted to fight a friend of mine. So 9 o'clock at night, we're closing up Carl's Jr. I go to take the trash out. Him and his two buddies come up to me and they're like, hey, you're a friend of this guy, right? Yeah. And the guy's like, I'm going to beat you up. And so he goes to kick my leg out. I lift my knee up to block the kick and I break his leg. And those two friends carried him off hobbling away. I never saw him again. And that's the long story short of the story. Now, I told you that story. You can understand I got attacked by these three guys, right? I don't need to show a picture to you of what that looks like. I don't have to show the security footage. Like, I tell you that story, you can get it. You're not going to be like, I'm sorry, you told me the story. I need a picture of it. I'm a visual learner. No. Stories are meant, like I'm telling you a story. So that means right now, technically, you're all auditory learners, right? Like people who take notes, like, wow, you're an auditory learner. No. If you're listening to notes and you're writing them down, you're using the auditory methodology, right? That's It doesn't mean you're strictly an auditory learner. So if you're looking at a graph, it's meant to be done in picture. It's best understood as a visual. If you're telling a story, it's best understood being heard. You don't necessarily need a picture of it. Now, if you're teaching a story to students and you have the story being read to the students while they're watching a video of the story, hey, you're just reinforcing multiple modalities of learning. It's not that you're trying to hit the visual learners and the auditory learners and the kinesthetic learners. No, you're just supporting your students with multiple modalities, learning modalities. That's a thing. That's good teaching. So what do we do as teachers? Teach with a multitude of modalities to support learning. How does this help us as teachers? Okay, so let me show you when I did propaganda posters. It tied in with another lesson of ethos, pathos, logos, and persuasive, all that stuff, right? So I showed the propaganda poster on the overhead. That's visual memory, right? That's my showing the visual. It's a poster. It's meant to be seen. Then I point to aspects of the posters, and I explain, I analyze the different parts of the posters. That's auditory, right? I'm showing the poster, but I'm speaking about the different parts of it, so a visual and auditory. I ask the students to take notes that I've displayed while I talk about the notes, so I'm using visual modality and auditory modality, and then we end up creating the poster and then sticking them on the wall, and the students walk around and enjoy each other's poster, right? Kinesthetic and visual. If I were to explain a poster without putting it up, my students aren't going to be like, I'm a visual learner, I need the poster up. No, you need the poster up because it's a poster and it needs to be seen. So as teachers, it's best to understand that, no, our students do not fall into the categories of visual learners only, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners. Again, unless there's some developmental issues. What we should do as teachers is to address all the different modalities to reinforce each other. If it's a visual component, poster, we need to have the poster up. It's visual. Then we can explain different things, have them take notes on different things while we're speaking, right? Then we can have them create their own. They're applying what they've learned. That's kinesthetic. But again, we're supporting learning through all the different modalities, not just because our students are certain learning styles or not. The best way to learn through experience. I'll do another video on it, but ultimately, get your students to experience things. That's the best way to learn. It's not just a modality, right? No, get your students to experience stuff. So, final summary, learning styles don't exist. There are independent learners. That is a real thing. As teachers, just use differentiated instruction. Use good teaching. And I've linked to some pretty cool videos you can check out there. Thanks for watching.